Welcome back, everybody, to Mets Daily. It's Thursday, February 13th, 2025, and I'm your host, Jake Brown, at Jake Brown Radio on all social media platforms. Make sure you smash that thumbs up right now on YouTube. We appreciate your support. Subscribe to the channel. We appreciate that. Share it with your family and friends. Another day talking New York Mets baseball, and I want to start the show today with talking about top Mets pitching prospect, Brandon Sproat. Here's a guy who is a massive part of this organization, and on Thursday, he threw 3 innings of live BP, and I think a lot of Mets fans have heard about him. They don't know a lot about him. Well, listen, this guy jumped the rankings very quickly last year at a very young age, and he's 24 years old. He went from single A to triple A all in the course of a season. That does not happen often, and he saw some mixed results, and I think we saw what the potential is when he saw a major league mound on Thursday at spring training and facing guys like a Brett Beatty, who I just put out a story on Mets on SI site just now about Brett Beatty. Do they trade him? Do they not? A guy he struck out. He faced major league hitters and had some success. Obviously, it's just February, it's spring, but it's a good sign now that this guy is at the AAA level and is on the precipice of being a big leaguer. And the Mets hope that this man is part of the rotation. I think a lot of the rotation struggles people are worried about on the back end. If Brandon Sproat were to come up here and succeed, that answers a lot of problems. Like, you don't have to worry about Griffin Canning, Paul Blackburn, Tyler McGill if Brandon Sproat is a part of this rotation. And let's break down who Brandon Sproat is. Brandon Sproat in 2024, like I said, was in single A Brooklyn, then double A Binghamton, and he struggled in triple A Syracuse. Now, there I put his double A and triple A numbers. Single A, he was dominant, but you can't dive deep into single A numbers because you're not really facing anyone close to the big leagues yet. But in double A, in 11 starts, 62 and a third, 77 strikeouts, a 2.54 ERA. Now, towards the end of the year, they gave him a shot in AAA, and he struggled. He struggled mightily. In 7 starts, a 7.85 ERA, 28 2/3, and only 21 strikeouts. He did not have the same put-out stuff. And, I think the moment might have been too big for him in that spot, but now he had an entire offseason to work on it. And this kid's got nasty stuff. He's got a fastball that can reach 101 miles an hour. He has added a new 2-seam fastball to his arsenal. He's got a changeup, a sweeper, and then he's got another kind of sweeper that's a tighter, more cutter-like hard slider. And also, I had to add, being an organization that had the great elite mustachio of Keith Hernandez, he is also a newly grown mustache, and it looks good. He said today that he never really could grow facial hair, and he worked this offseason with one of the Braves players, one of his buddies, to grow a mustache, and you see it there on the right-hand side of the screen. That is a good-looking mustache for Brandon Sproat. So will sprout his way from Syracuse to Queens? I mean, I guess it's going south from Syracuse to Queens, but that's yet to be seen. I think you got to see some level of success from him in AAA, but there's no question he's got the makeup. He has the makeup to be something special, and the Mets are confident in his ability to potentially be a frontline starter one day, and I think Sproat is part of the reason they're not interested in trading for a Michael King or Dylan Cease, 2 pitchers that the Padres say now are not on the block. They just added Kyle Hart. They also added, obviously, Nick Pivetta. So the Padres are confident in the rotation and don't seem to be trading those guys as of now. The Padres also a wild card contender like the Mets, so we'll see how that race shapes out. But they're hoping that Sproat, avoids them having to trade for a starter. And July, maybe he is that trade deadline addition. And, Carlos Mendoza said something very interesting about Sproat. He basically said, maybe I shouldn't say this, but I'm glad that he struggled in AAA. I'm glad that he faced that adversity because you need to face that adversity in the minors. Like, you'd rather him struggle and get lit up in AAA where the games don't really matter than get lit up on the big league level. So Carlos Mendoza makes a good point. Like, hey, he finally faced adversity. He dominated single A, he dominated double A, and he crapped the bed in AAA. Well, that's good because it's only 7 starts, and he's going to get at least a few months. I would push the brakes, hold the brakes, pump the brakes on him being up here by Memorial Day or up here by the start of the summer. I think realistically, if Brandon Sproat is in a Mets uniform, it's probably after the trade deadline, the last 2 months of the season. So be patient with him, but just know that this kid has the stuff and he's got the makings to be something special for this Mets team. So we will see if Brandon Sproat is part of the picture moving forward. Francisco Alvarez will be catching Brandon Sproat. And, we talked a little bit about Alvarez, but, he doubled down talking about the Mets and saying, how good they are. He also said the Mets have a better lineup than the Dodgers. Now, obviously, that is hyperbole and not true. Let's be real. The Dodgers have the best lineup in the sport, but I love the confidence. And, he, like I said a couple days ago, he's got to be part of that lineup being better than the Dodgers because he can't be an 11-homer hitter. He's known for his power. If you're going to hit me 220, you got to get me 25 homers again like you did in your rookie year in 2023. And Alvarez is a massive part of this team. We know the joy that he brings. We know the excitement, the smile, the attitude. We know he's beloved in that clubhouse. But you have to go out there and be a professional hitter. And that's exactly what he called J.D. Martinez. And, a tremendous story by Will Salmon, the Athletic. I think him and Tim Healy are probably two of my favorite reporters out there. These are some, little notes. I suggest you to subscribe to the Athletic and read the story by Will himself. But, J.D. Martinez is someone that Alvarez picked his brain last year. And, if J.D. Martinez ends up not signing anywhere, if I'm the Mets, I see if he wants to be some kind of bench coach. I think he was a big part of this team in 2024 and mentoring these guys. I would see if he'll leave his pickleball career and he's trying to enter the pickleball world, and maybe the Mets throw him, $1 million to be a coach. Because I think J.D. Martinez had a real positive impact on a lot of guys on this team, and Alvarez is one of them who, he called J.D. Martinez a professional hitter. J.D. Martinez recommended Alvarez to the Maven Baseball Lab in Atlanta, and that's where Alvarez actually spent a lot of his offseason. Atlanta, great city, great place to hang out. Some interesting place to go out at night. Hopefully Alvarez dabbled in the nightlife, but not too hard. And, that's where he revamped his swing. Remember, this is a guy that hit 25 homers in his rookie year in 2023. 2024, he struggled. September, he did pick it up. He had 5 homers in September, so maybe he carries over some of that positive mojo. But he worked with Tyler Krieger, who leads the hitting instruction there at Maven, who worked many years with J.D. Martinez. And Alvarez, and you saw it. I mean, this was pretty obvious. He got pull happy. Like, he was not hitting the other way. Like, J.D. Martinez specializes in that situational single to right field or, that fly out to right field if you got a right fielder with a weak arm. And he had a tendency to spin out and step more towards third base. Instead, they want him up the middle, and they want him being a better hitter. They want him, being better at hitting those inside pitches. And I think this is all tremendous stuff. And these hitting coaches and Barnes and Chavez, they encourage these guys in the offseason. If they have another coach they know they want to work with, that's fine. I'm sure these guys want to break anyway in the offseason. I don't know if Eric Chavez wants to work on hitting in November. I'm sure he wants a break with his family. And picking JD's brain and going to Maven, these are all good things. And, he talked with Will about, hey, I wanted to take the time this offseason to get better. Some guys lift, some guys hit the gym, they work on their bodies, and I'm sure he did that. And he also wanted to get better. He wanted to, get back to that Alvarez who not just hits homers, but could hit a single, hit that sac fly, move the guys over. He sees this lineup, and he talks about this lineup being the best in the league, and he knows that they added Juan Soto. Well, you got to be a better overall professional hitter if the Mets are going to get there. So all good things here from Francisco Alvarez, and I hope he actually does, live up to the billing, and the Mets end up being that kind of top 2, maybe number 1 offense. It's a stretch, but good for Alvarez on working on that. Close up today's show with a special happy birthday shout-out. Happy 71st birthday shout-out to Mets longtime radio voice, Howie Rose. And you see there, the picture of me and Howie. That was from the anniversary of Matto charity event last year. I've met Howie at mutual occasions. He used to come on my shows, mutual occasions. And so a happy birthday shout out to Howie Rose, one of the best in the business. And if you don't know the quick story, if you weren't an amazing but true listener of me and Howie Rose, I'll share it quickly. And in the early 1980s, I think it was like 1983 or something, my mom was at, I believe, a Toyota dealership in Queens, in Douglaston or Flushing. I forget which dealership it was. But Howie Rose ran into my mom at the time and asked her at the dealership for her phone number. And my mom wrote it on the back of like the dealership number card or whatever, gave Howie Rose, my mom gave Howie Rose her number. Howie calls my mom finally weeks later. But when she calls weeks later, it was already too late. The time had passed. My mom had started dating what would end up being my dad. So me and Howie Rose, the picture is funny because you think, hey, it could, maybe it was father and son, or maybe me, just blind, doesn't exist. If Howie calls weeks earlier, who knows? Maybe I'm the next Mets radio voice, or I'm not alive. And maybe some people will be happy. Maybe people would be happy there's no Jake Brown. But some people, if you do like me, be happy that Howie waited just too long to try and go out with my mom. Who knows if it would have worked. But, it could have been Jake Rose or it could have been nothing. So happy birthday to you, Howie Rose. And a happy Friday coming up to all of you, as we'll be back tomorrow on Friday on a happy Valentine's Day. Who's your Valentine? Let us know in the comments. And, also on Howie, we got to be thankful as Mets fans. The greatest broadcast booths in baseball, Howie and my guy Keith Rad on the radio, and then Gary, Keith, and Ron, the absolute best in baseball, voted #1 in baseball. And these broadcast crews truly get us through the dark times of the Mets, the blowouts every night, 162 games a year. These guys are the best. So thanks to Howie. Happy birthday to Howie. And thank you so much for listening. Subscribe, share the channel, smash that thumbs up, comment below. We appreciate your support. I'm Jake Brown at Jake Brown Radio, and we'll talk to you tomorrow on Valentine's Day. Thanks for watching. Mets Daily.